just a hack. He's just an absolute hack. And he gets his ass kicked by his teammates every week. It's just, it's terrible. It's just terrible.
Welcome back to Hack City. Joe DeLeone, Sean Anderson, two former college football players from the University of Rhode Island, here to recap Week 10 of college football. Some might call us clowns. If we're referring to a particular fan base, you could probably guess who that is. We're going to be recapping the outcome of Montana beating Sac State, South Dakota State rolling over North Dakota State, and then some just general takeaways from scores across the FCS landscape. Sean, before we get to that, though, can you just share a quick word with our listeners about Bet Online?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to, Joe. You know, I love talking about gambling and sports wagering and football and baseball and basketball and hockey and UFC and all the sports that you can bet on at Bet Online. Look at that. Nice and tidy.
Oh.
Keep making stupid faces during my read, jackass. I can see you just in the corner outside the read itself. What do you think about this NBA in-season tournament, by the way? I think it's stupid as
I don't understand how it works. I don't understand how it works.
I don't necessarily care to either. But if you like the NBA and you like crazy courts and you like in-season tournaments, why don't you bet on it at Bet Online? Head there today and remember to use our promo code BLEAV for 50% off your welcome bonus for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit.
Hey.
Bet Online, where the game starts. Obviously, my first read
Joe
with
DeLeone.
this sponsor. God.
On a good old Joe DeLeone messing up the read. All right, starting us off with our box score takeaways from the week. The first one, the wagon score of the week. Furman ends up surviving against Chattanooga 17-14. I believe Tyler Huff went down with some sort of an injury, but their defense just stands up and stops Chattanooga. They continue to roll in the SoCon. The thing that's going to be really tricky, and we're recording a lot earlier than we usually do, so I haven't done my ballot yet. I'm kind of leaning, and I had Furman at 2. They are the victim of everybody else, their outcomes forcing them to fall. They still have a really good season.
Yeah.
And I think I just have to drop them a little bit because of Montana's win. They're going to move up to 2 or 3 for me after I dissect everything. But it stinks because Furman's a pretty good football team this year. They look really good.
I got you. It's unfortunate that a win over Idaho or a win over Sac State weighs more, even though Furman has earned the respect of being in the top 4. But it's going to be really hard to slot them in there. And Chattanooga's a good team, and that's a huge win because right now, late in the season, dicey, could really shake it up. They decided we're going to stay headstrong, win this game. It's going to be close, and we're going to win a tight game for once here with Furman. So it's good to see. Chattanooga's a good team. Big win for the Wagon Furman.
The was waiting for this to happen score of the week. Incarnate Word loses to Nichols, 45-32. There was a lot of discourse, I think it was last week, about Incarnate Word's placement. And
yes,
like one of the things that I said is that they're good enough. They were like Lafayette, who we're going to talk about in a second. They're like Lafayette, where they were running the table and they were undefeated in FCS play, which is good enough to get them in the top 15 discussion. It is really hard to go undefeated after 8 or 9 games. But you were kind of waiting. You're kind of waiting, like where's the floor going to fall out, and it happens against Nichols.
Yeah, it seemed like they were living off borrowed time a little bit, and we know that the clock ticks a little bit faster when that happens. So
very poetic
with the MF Doom line, by the way, accordion. Yeah, I think it's the first. Whatever. Jeez, you can't just let me. Regardless, Incarnate Word felt like they were living off borrowed time. Still a good team, still a good program. But they didn't have the X factor that they've had the last couple of years. They just didn't. So without that, you're kind of like, all right, they're still doing it. They're still doing it. And they lost to Nichols. So I don't think it bumps them out entirely, but it was a little bit like, okay, let's see how far this train can go.
The rock fight score of the week, man. This is a Missouri Valley football score.
Will these change every week? Will the names of the games change? Okay, all right. I like that.
Well, that's the whole bit, is that there's not I'm coming up with a completely different game name every single week. That's the whole stupid bit. This is a Missouri Valley Football Conference score, if we could ever create a better one than this. But SIU, USD versus SIU, USD ends up winning 14-7. And that doesn't surprise me because they're good enough to be in the top 3-4 discussion of the conference, but they both got smacked around a little bit by South Dakota State. So here's the outcome.
They're both good teams. They're both about as good as each other. Each team has pros better than the other team's cons, and this was a 14-7. What are you going to, this is two even teams playing each other. They play next week, then it's 14-7 the other way. Good teams, not great teams, but a lot of bright spots on each program.
The running on fumes score of the week. Western Carolina narrowly beats Wofford 28-25. I think most of us would have expected in the height of their explosiveness, Western Carolina would have blown past Wofford, but I'm not saying they're running on fumes in a bad way. Like they stink. I'm just saying that the injuries are kind of starting to catch up to them and they're not as offensively potent as they've been.
I would have called this the just beat traffic game of the week because you were very close to sitting in it. Oh, you saw it. You got out of the office like 3:50. You just beat traffic. You just beat it. So Western Carolina, it's big to add a win where you could have had a loss. Sounds redundant. I understand, but right now they're fighting. They're scrapping. They're playing scramble golf. Is what Western Carolina is doing. And sometimes you scramble in a bogue and you're just happy about it. Like, all right, maybe I'll hit the fairway next hole. Who knows? Just you're living to play the next hole for Western Carolina.
The my head hurts score of the week. Villanova beats UNH 45-33. The only reason why I have that is because I can't figure out the CAA. Now, I don't think I picked I picked UNH to win this, but you just don't know who's the good team. You just don't.
Well, it's more accentuated in the next game that we're about to talk about in the CAA. But Villanova is kind of doing Villanova things. They have a steady program, and they're good, but you're not putting many eggs in that basket still. You're just not. Because who the hell knows?
Right. And to that point, the time to find Jesus score of the week. Delaware loses, who I thought that they were, man. I thought that they had it. And I think they dealt with a significant quarterback injury. And I think that I didn't get total eyes on this because, as you could imagine, there were a lot of insane games this weekend. This is one of those ones where I put my ballot together. I'm going to kind of review and see what happened. But 33-27 versus Elon is surprising. I still don't think Elon's that good. I just think that Delaware stumbled, and dealing with a QB injury is going to hurt you.
Elon refuses to play to their potential against teams as good or worse to them, but they max out on HP and power and defense when playing a team better than them. So it's another CAA year. Who just whatever. It's madness. We're used to it. We know that every CAA placement on a ballot is basically futile until the season is over, until they play the last game. Then we can really try to assess and review because they're all so close to doing this to each other every week.
Speaking of CAA, skipping over another score to get to this one. The CAA Hertz score of the week. Albany beats William & Mary 24-8. Man, I just remember so long ago that I was so in on William & Mary. Their offense has underperformed so badly this year, man. I thought that they had it. And the offensive line was good. They just have not played up to expectation. I really thought that they were the team this year. And again, we have no idea. It's hard to figure out this conference.
Well, Yoder's been out. That hurt them. It's just maybe their window was last year. They still have talent, but this will get them the boot off the ballot. And Albany, congrats. Albany's had a sneaky good season. They've had a sneaky good season. I'm not going to yell on my bully pulpit or yell on my pedestal, whatever. That's a whole bunch of phrases mixed together into nothing. I'm not going to yell that you guys need to start respecting Albany. This is the team, right? I'm not going to do that. But they've had a sneaky good season, and we should acknowledge that.
Yes, absolutely deserving of acknowledgement. And then the last one, thank you for making me look stupid, score of the week. Lafayette loses to Colgate 37-34. Look, I thought after they beat Holy Cross, I would have never really moved them up. I had them at 13 last week. I would have never moved them up further than that. But I think that them being undefeated and them having that Holy Cross win and then playing a decent game, I think they played Duke, was the FBS team that they played. They were starting to have the makings of a good top 15 team that was going to run the table in the Patriot League and win out and then go play in the playoff and probably get punched around pretty bad in the first round.
Sure.
But now instead they lose the game and they're kind of a faulty team for what their record is because they lost to Colgate, who's a nothing team. They had such an opportunity, and it's very clear that they've got no defense, which should have been a red flag with how many yards they gave up to Matt Sluka.
Yeah, Lafayette had a good run. It was a fun run for late October, early November, but it's just about over. It's just about time the cream has decided, well, we messed around long enough. Time to rise to the top, and I guess that's Colgate. Time to rank them because I'm looking for clicks and I'm trying to troll. So Colgate is going to come in at 18 for me this week. Because I'm a troll and I like clicks. And Twitter impressions mean way more to me than putting together a good ballot. Shut up.
What? By the way, I love that analysis by people that are like, oh, it's for clicks. It's like, why would you withstand all of the negative comments just for like a little bit more Twitter
Some
engagement?
people live for that. Some people think that negative attention is still attention, so it positive reinforces them. No. I like being right. And when I'm wrong, it hurts, but I acknowledge it. We're not making money off of Twitter. We're just not. I saw you lost. You decided to stop going for the blue?
No. I changed when you change your profile picture, you lose the blue and then you get re-verified, and then it's
okay. What'd you change it to?
I went back to the picture you hated. It was the hammer thing was funny for a little bit, but it was a little overplayed, and I don't know. I look stupid as it is. I don't need to look extra stupid with the hammer.
I hate this one.
Yeah, I need a new picture. I need someone to take a picture of me or something.
Okay,
all right. Let's talk about the two big games this weekend, Sean. Starting for the one that the Montana fans are so excited for us to talk about, 34-7 against Sac State. I want to first off start off by saying really impressive win. I think that Montana answered all the questions that I had. And I have to lay this out because I don't think it's really understood. And I also don't think a lot of Montana fans might overlook this statement, and they didn't want to listen to this rationale last week. Montana had a really good win coming into this game against Idaho. A very, very good win against Idaho. But their remaining resume was very poor. Like, we can't sit here and ignore the fact that they barely beat the Division II team that has multiple losses, and they lost to NAU. That is cause for concern. And it's not cause for concern that I don't think that Montana couldn't go on this run that they're going on. That wasn't it. And that's where there's the misconception and the people think that they're biased against their team.
Yeah.
Right. I need to see them beat Sac State and do it well. And then I'm all good. And I even said this, and this was completely ignored. If they beat Sac State, I'm moving them up to 2 or 3.
Oh, did you say that? I also said that, yes. And it was completely ignored.
You have to have, when we're doing these rankings, you have to have justifiable wins to place them there. We can't do the transitive property for Montana when they don't equally have the same type of wins that Montana State had, that Sac State had. People were trying to discount the Sac State win over Stanford. Guys, we have to look at this all in a broad. I like to lay it out in like a map. I like to look at everything on a map, and I like to analyze and look at the teams that are next to each other. How do I think that they've looked when I've watched them? How do I think that they looked against these head-to-head matchups? And they just didn't have the resume. But you're completely justified now. There's no apology coming from us. There's no, we were wrong. It's, you didn't have the wins. Now you have the win. And then now when you guys play Montana State, that's going to be a really good football game. I said this too. When Montana's good, it's good for college football.
It's great.
It's good for FCS football.
They have an incredibly passionate fan base. They have a good team culture, great stadium, great uniform. They check all the boxes, but they took everything personally because they were treating a living, breathing poll in week 8 or 9 like it was the Bible, like it was written in stone.
Right.
I said it. If you beat Sac State, it's going to be a major bump. Because we're anti-Montana fan? Are we Montana State fan? No. We're FCS football fans, and we realize the situation, unlike you.
I said this on the FBS show, and we're going to get into this game and why Montana looked as good as they did. I said this on the other show, and I'm just repeating it. The college football season is a fluid timeline.
Yes.
It is a fluid, ever-changing timeline. I'm of course going to alter my opinion as results come. I am not going to jump to conclusions without the evidence necessary to make those conclusions. I need to see certain things. And I'm not like a hypocrite for changing my opinion, changing my ranking placement after something has happened. I would argue I'd be really stupid to either jump to a conclusion and force Montana up higher without seeing any evidence, or if I was stubborn and not making any changes. I am willing to make those changes.
Yeah.
That's the whole point and why we get this.
Exactly.
We have the vote. We have a diversity. We provide a diverse opinion. We're not all of the other people that are from the Midwest voting, that we're able to provide a different perspective for other programs across the country. And we're able to and willing to make changes from our ballot. There are plenty of people in the past that have not made any changes and have just kept teams where they are and slightly shifted them. It should rapidly change when things happen.
It's
my final thought.
Jumping to conclusions is fun, but we don't really do it that often. We don't. So if you want to take a victory lap because your team earned a really good win, then do that. Not because we got it wrong. Because I still don't think I got it wrong at that point in time. Now I have new information and I'll put out a poll and I'll still think that I got it right.
I think you should put him at 25. I think you should move him back.
Joe, that would be
move him up to 16. Move him up to 16 and be like, I was really impressed by the win.
Do you understand the firestorm? Like that. If I had balls, I'd
you might get shot.
That would be.
You're gonna wake up. Upset. Someone's gonna be waiting at your door. All right. To talk about this game though, 34-7 was very impressive. Game started off hot for Sac State and Marcus Fulcher. They were feeding him. And as I was watching this, I started to realize something's off. And it was brought up to my attention by some Sac State fans in comments that Caden Bennett was dealing with some sort of an injury. Their backup might have possibly played, was what was talked about. Caden Bennett ends up starting because they clearly don't really trust the backup. But you could tell the way that they were just feeding Marcus Fulcher on that first drive when they scored that something was wrong, that he clearly wasn't fully healthy. They weren't as aggressive downfield as we're used to seeing. And I think that played a really big factor into this. I think that really hurt them. So I'm not going to really knock Sac State a ton in my ballot this week. I'm not going to move them back because they're dealing with just in-season adversity. And hopefully Bennett comes back because him being healthy is good for him, and this program maybe being seeded. They might just be outside of them being in that conversation. But what does step up is Montana's capability to take advantage of a wounded opponent when they're down. They're not afraid that it's like you're at an MMA fight or a boxing match and you see your opponents limping a little bit. Instead of just letting them hang around and going easy on them, they attacked. They got aggressive. Yep. They ran all over them. Clifton McDowell, man, is a heck of a runner. And the way that he played,
he had a great
Gilman,
game.
Osmo, the way that this rushing attack has opened up their passing game is really exciting to see. And I think that if they continue this momentum, they're going to finish with a seed, and maybe they'll be in that conversation to win the Big Sky. I don't know where the tiebreakers lie. I will just reiterate something that I compared to a bit ago. This Montana team is really similar to Alabama, where they're good at taking advantage of opportunities. They've got a really athletic quarterback who throws a pretty good deep ball. And if they're in an offensive rhythm, they're running the ball well, they're going to gash it through the air. When there are issues, and we've seen some issues, they've been slowed down, but they feel very reminiscent to Alabama.
Yeah, I can see the parallels. McDowell impressed this game, but I hate the pick, but still, that's just me. I always hate interceptions. I hate fumbles from quarterback. It's just always going to bug me.
That was like his first all year or something like that. That's what the announcer said.
But he had a great game. He commanded the offense. I mean, you give me a quarterback giving me 300 yards from scrimmage, I'll always take that. I will never say that he did not meet expectations. He was great. Osmo's great in the red zone. He should just be prominent there. Gilman had a great game, and the defense, they did their job and just canceled out everything Sac State wanted to do. They canceled it out for Bennett. They canceled out for Conklin. Fulcher was their most productive offensive player with 7.9 yards per rush. But outside of that, they could never get into a rhythm to truly unlock a performance from him that would change the game. They halted and stunted the growth of Sac State since the first Sac State drive, since they started off hot. After that, it was, we're not letting you do this. We're going to stop you on third down. We're just going to suffocate you. You're not going to get into it, and we're going to be on our time. We're going to have I think they had like a 13-play, 90-yard drive. That is the bane of Sac State's existence, is seeing something like that happen. Our offense can't get on the field. Our defense is getting tired. It's the exact opposite. You need the fresh defense for Sac State. You need a high-powered, quick-moving offense, and Montana completely shut that down. So it was a great impact win. They coached their asses off. It was a good game for Montana, and it will reflect in the ballot. You have given a performance and a game that will reflect in ballots appropriately. Good for you.
Yeah, so they're going to move up to 15. They're going to move up to 15.
Being funny, but people are going to think that you're being serious about this with my ballot. No, it's a great win. It's like a tier A win that you could get. The S tier is beating South Dakota State. But yeah, that's about as good as a win you can get.
Also, by the way, I just randomly thought about this. God, I know that we're like really lingering on this, just like talking about the reaction last week, because it was annoying. It was really, really annoying. The lack of understanding by some fans
stopped,
on how these things work.
It didn't just keep going all week.
Right. It was just continuous. But the hilarious part is I was high on Montana before the NAU loss, and I was one of the few people that didn't drop them. I didn't hear a single Montana fan rush to my support and being like, this ballot's right. They're not bailing on this team early. I kept them in my ballot after the NAU loss, I think, and I had them like the back end.
I dropped them.
I had people coming to me being like, why did you keep him in here? That's a ridiculous thing. People were calling me out for taking Montana, not taking Montana out. And I think I might have taken him out for 1 week, or I didn't. But I continually stuck. I just remembered that, and I completely forgot about it, which is the most infuriating part about all of this, is that I was in on you guys.
You're their guy. You are their guy. You're Mr. Montana.
No, I'm a mouth-breathing, knuckle-dragging shitheel, according to that one clown who runs that silly little blog in Anaconda, Montana. That guy sucks. I still hate that guy. That guy had me so fuming. That Blake Hempstead guy.
Yeah,
had me so pissed off.
You see, he actually didn't. He's in probably the top 3. I think Kenley Brester is number 1 for me. And then goofball Noah Brandon Neal is those are my top 3 in Montana. What are you doing? Why are you constantly tweeting me? Those are my top 3 guys. So you heard your names read on air. Hopefully you got what you needed.
Congratulations.
You finally got it. Go hug your dad.
Hempstead's blog got more run on our show than he's ever gotten in a month.
Figure out your personal problems before attacking us.
All right, South Dakota State versus North Dakota State. Man, this is a good old-fashioned ass whooping, man. Look, this one's probably not going to get a lot of time from us. I'm going to be completely honest. This might be like a 3-minute recap. So we talked about this a little bit. It wasn't a fully fleshed out prediction, but the way that we talked about this game, I think this game played out where it was close early because it's the marker game. You're going to get everything thrown at you. Both these teams are going to grind it out early, and they're going to do whatever it takes to win and keep this game close early. But the fact of how separate these two teams are and the talent level of South Dakota State, they just started to build steam. And it was to the tune of them beating them by multiple scores and beating them pretty handily. The highlights are silly to rewatch. It's silly to go back and rewatch where at the beginning of the game, North Dakota State's just really fighting tooth and nail to get down the field and to score on that first drive.
Always
and
a
then
struggle.
miss the extra point. And whenever I said this on the FBS show with USC, whenever you have to do that, it's not sustainable throughout the entirety of the game. And South Dakota State, meanwhile, is just ripping off these long rushing gains, these long passes. They're just moving the ball easy, and they're getting big defensive stops. South Dakota State, I'm going to reiterate it over and over again. There has never been a team this experienced in college football. Nobody should ever be in the conversation ahead of them at the number 1 spot. I don't think anyone's crazy enough to do it. And you know what? Anyone who thinks that they're going to get upset at some point, it's not going to happen. It's just not. They're the most sure thing in college football that I have seen in a very long time.
We could have said this in week 2, but it just continues to get cemented. It's the new era. It's the new era. It was North Dakota State for so long that it always feels a little bit shocking when you really realize it, but South Dakota State just has it. They have it in their hand. They have the entire subdivision. They have their conference. They have every game. It's just in their hand. And if they continue to play like they are, show me where they lose, and I'll be very surprised. I'll be surprised even if they catch a hot Montana State team. I'll be surprised if they catch an Idaho team that played perfect. If they've played a Montana team whose offense was rolling and their defense is playing like they have been, I'd still be shocked if they lost. There's no, it would just come out of the blue. I would be floored, and it would be what we would have to deem an emergency pod where, oh my God, they lost. How did they lose? Where did they lose?
Yeah.
And why did they lose? What happens next? And I don't expect that to happen either.
I got to bring up before we wrap. Do we need to have a conversation about Matt Entz, the head coach for North Dakota State? Do we need to have that conversation that time might be the clock might be ticking a little bit? There's a lot of frustration, man. It's not like they've got 2 losses. They've gotten multiple losses, 2 really bad ones to South Dakota and North Dakota, and then you lose the marker game the way that you do. I think that there could be a debate where he's on thin ice.
The conversation could be had. I don't think it's the year. They go out.
He's on thin ice.
It's not. Yeah, it's the warmest seat I've seen at North Dakota State since covering them. It's the warmest seat.
Yeah, and they've always had this lineage of just next guy up. I don't even know who could be that hot seat guy. I wonder who could replace him. It's good. It's gonna be really interesting to follow. At Joe DeLeone, at Samson Radio.
Idiot.
Oh, I fucking forgot. Sorry. Go. I didn't mean to curse. Go. I'm sorry.
Holy Cross running back Jordan Fuller, 30 carries, 228 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Give us a little more energy.
You just suck it out. You just suck the energy out of the show.
I'm sorry.
Hampton running back Elijah Burris, 14 carries, 173 yards, 4 touchdowns. Maine quarterback Derek Robertson had a day, 28 for 46, 349 yards, 5 touchdowns. He also threw a pick. Penn running back Malachi Hosley, whatever. Either or, whatever it is. Hosley, let's lock in there. 21 rush.
Alex Grinch just got fired.
Oh, jeez. Well, all right. Is the sun still up? All right. Well, it'll be up tomorrow. Malachi Hosley, 21 carries, 261 yards, 2 touchdowns. Butler quarterback Brett Bushka. Butler's had some dudes all year, and when I've been tracking their scores that are very close to getting on it, so it's almost they finally had one here. 16 for 17 passing, 281 yards, 5 touchdowns through the air. He had a pick, but he also had a rush touchdowns, 6 total touchdowns. UT Martin quarterback Kincaid Dent, 24 for 40, 318 yards, 5 touchdowns and a pick. South Carolina State running back Jawarn Howell, 27 carries, 283 yards. Nichols running back Colin Guggenheim, 23 carries, 153 yards, 4 touchdowns. Austin P. wide receiver Cam Thomas, the quarterback, had a great game also. 10 catches, 204 yards, 2 touchdowns. And to close it out, let's go to old reliable Tarleton State. Quarterback Victor Gabalis, 15 for 19, 389 yards, 4 touchdowns, and then a rush touchdown tacked onto it as well. Joseph, do you have a stat that you think is particularly fat? Or just make noises?
I'm debating between Howell. I'm going to go with Victor Gabalis.
Okay.
That's pretty nuts. 4 incompletions, almost 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, and then a rushing touchdown. That's silly.
All right. Well, Brett Bushka had 1 incomplete.
Thick.
All right. I'm taking Jordan Howell. 283 yards on the ground. You stink.
Wait, his 1 incompletion was a pick?
Looks like it.
Oh, that's a stock down.
That is stock up. All or nothing.
Down.
All or nothing. I'm sure the DB came in and made a Sports Center top 10 play.
Stock down.
As Butler is rolling.
What a just garbage player. No, I'm just kidding. All right, everybody. Now we'll end the show. I'm sorry, Sean. I'm so sorry. At Joe DeLeone.
It's only a segment we've been doing for 5 years.
Drop a comment. We've been doing the show this long. Don't make me feel old.
It's been every bit of 4.
Has it been 4? God, I'm gonna go jump off my balcony after this.
Nice.
Drop a comment, subscribe, find God. We'll be back.